President Trump taking things into his own hands when it comes to Obamacare.
President Trump plans to cut off subsidy payments to insurers. That would be the administration's most aggressive move yet to dismantle Obamacare.
He signed an executive order to try to reshape the nation's health care system.
This will cost the United States government virtually nothing.
Apart from the scandal, there is a very real legal element to the Harvey Weinstein saga. According to at least one news source, the FBI is reportedly investigating him right now, as is the New York City Police Department.
I heard the tape that NYPD, the Special Victims Unit, put together. Make no mistake, that tape would have been sufficient in my office when I was the DA to prosecute Harvey Weinstein.
General John Kelly making a surprise appearance before the press.
Talk about frustrations. What are his frustrations right now?
One of his frustrations is you, all of you. Not all of you, but many of you. It is astounding to me how much is misreported. I will give you the benefit of the doubt, maybe develop some better sources.
Friday the 13th, right there on the wall. Welcome to this Friday the 13th edition of
Don't
Fox
remind us. I like when I find out that it's Friday the 13th at like
on the
10 o'clock
14th
at night. Yeah. Woo, we made it through.
You know what the fear of Friday the 13th is called?
What is that called? Expedalidocious?
Trigodestriadosis. It's friga something. It's friga something.
Wow.
And boy, is it.
And by the way, if anyone was fearful on Friday the 13th of Obamacare imploding, that was doing it on its own. But the president is actually taking action and is pretty much fed up with what's been going on. So last night around 9 o'clock, he had his second shot at taking it out.
The first shot, he signed executive order encouraging competition, more choices, and lower costs. And then he stopped the bailouts to the insurance companies.
Right, which is about $7 billion.
Sure. And so what he is doing today is previewed in this tweet that he sent out 18 minutes ago. The Democrats, Obamacare is imploding. Massive subsidy payments to their pet insurance companies has stopped. Dems should call me to fix. And what he's talking about is the administration has been propping up the insurance companies that take part for, as Brian just mentioned, $7 billion a year. Essentially what it's going to do, it's going to end the payments. And here's the reason why this makes sense, because they were never approved. When they carved up the law of Obamacare, they never said, okay, and then there's going to be this bailout for the insurance companies. In 2014, the Republican Party sued the federal government. In 2016, a federal judge said, you know what, the Republicans are right. Those payments are improper.
So because the government, our tax dollars, have been bailing out these companies, they're able to stay in Obamacare. Right. And the president is saying that's not fair. This is not what the original intent was. We're spending $7 billion to prop up these insurance companies, and I'm tired of it, he says.
And it's going to allow you and I to go across state lines to get insurance plans that maybe you didn't have access to because to get some laws. I can't see people being upset by that. More competition ideally would drive prices down. Meanwhile, the theory was that they were going to pass some loose outline of a reform with this new health care plan for the Republicans put forward, repeal and replace. They couldn't get it together, as we all know, for various reasons. And Health and Human Services Secretary at the time was Tom Price, going to go in and make a bunch of rules, and he was going to begin to fix it. So what the president's doing is, you couldn't do it, so I'm going to make a bunch of rules to try to fix it. And here's what the Health and Human Services Acting Secretary says. It has been clear for many years that Obamacare is a bad policy. It's also a bad law. We believe the last administration overstepped the legal boundaries by our Constitution. Congress has not appropriated the money for the CHRİS, so subsidies for plans, and we'll discontinue these payments immediately. However, Congresswoman, who's a Republican, Ross Layton of Florida, says she's upset because a lot of her low-income constituents are going to be left out to dry, she claims.
They're worried that the insurance companies are not going to have that money anymore, and so they're going to pass on the cost to the people that they insure.
But ultimately, the people who are really, at the end, they're strapped, they can't afford it, they would benefit, as we have learned, for state Medicaid. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi put out a joint statement, and they say that what the president is doing is sabotage. He says it is a spiteful act of vast, pointless sabotage leveled at working families and the middle class in every corner of America. Make no mistake about it, Trump will try to blame the Affordable Care Act, but this will fail on his back, and he will pay the price for it. So the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services both have advised the president you don't have to make those payments. Although it's interesting, the Wall Street Journal says the president told one lawmaker payments could continue if a bipartisan deal on health care was struck, and apparently the deal on the talks is close.
Because he's saying, listen, I'll work with you. I want a bipartisan deal. I want repeal and replace. This is just the first step to get us there. He's saying if the Democrats don't like this, then maybe they'll sit down with the Republicans and they'll talk about a better plan, a better option. So he's saying, I would continue the payments, but this is my way of forcing them to do what I ran on, what I promised the American people I would do.
Remember, Kathleen Sebelius did a lot of this stuff on her own. They passed a lot of blank pages with Obamacare, and she filled in the blanks, and then she was told, shown the door. Coming up later on our show to get in the legal aspect behind this and other things, Attorney General Jeff Sessions will be here live, and Senator Rand Paul. Many people say Rand Paul and the president work very closely on this, where they looked and said, what can we do through executive order, being that Congress has totally let him down. But one person that doesn't seem to have let him down, despite the reports, is General John Kelly, who is now Chief of Staff John Kelly. To the surprise of many, he was must-see TV in a surprise appearance yesterday at the instead of the press secretary.
He had a message for the fake news, for the media, for all the allegations. Many have said he's going to step down from the job. This was his response.
I would just offer to you that although I read it all the time, pretty consistently, I'm not quitting today. I don't believe, and I just talked to the president, I don't think I'm being fired today. And I am not so frustrated in this job that I'm thinking of leaving. I would tell you, this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is, in my view, the most important job I ever had. I would offer, though, it is not the best job I ever had. Best job I ever had, as I've said many times, is when I was an enlisted Marine sergeant infantryman. I would just offer to you the advice I'd say, maybe develop some better sources. Some person that works way down inside an office or just develop some better sources.
What he did was he came out and he said, the president has a problem with a lot of you people here in the room because he will see things in print or on television that simply is not accurate. And so that's why Mr. Kelly, John F. Kelly, said you got to develop better sources. Keep in mind, there are people who even work in the White House, don't like the president, would like to sandbag the president. And so there are these leaks, there are these anonymous sources. Oftentimes, according to what we heard yesterday from the podium, they are not accurate. And you know what? For the most part, it was a brush back to the press. Hey, if you're going to print something about this administration, please make sure the sources are accurate.
One of the journalists says, what's your frustration? And he looks at him and he says, you are my frustration. Well, not you specifically, the media. Right. Many of you are not honest.
So he took out, it's really the Vanity Fair article in particular, where they say the president is yelling out, I don't like anyone in the White House, he says to Keith Schiller, his former security guy, except for a few people, and that the Chief of Staff Kelly is upset because, on Twitter about the president tweeting and unable to get truly control of the president. He made clear yesterday, I'm not here to get a hold of the president, and I have no problem with his tweeting. A lot of it is the issues that are put in front of us that were left for us, and he indicated maybe irresponsibly for us, that we have to deal with on a daily basis.
He didn't have a problem with the little Bob Corker tweet. He didn't have a problem with the Puerto Rico tweet because he said it was exactly accurate. This is the kind of man that Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, also a Marine, thinks is perfect for this job.
He's a United States Marine. He's a man who knows what it's like to be shot at by bad people shooting real bullets, not just a bunch of blowhards sitting in the press room. He lost his own son, as you pointed out in the last segment, in this long war. His whole demeanor exudes confidence. He's not quitting. He's not going to be fired. He's not frustrated, except by inaccurate news stories. That's there. You got to ask yourself this. Why is it that so many of our colleagues in the media business believe anonymous sources and disbelieve an official like John Kelly speaking on the record? Why is that?
That was your interview last night.
Yeah,
right?
Dave Bossie called Steve Bannon about the other aspect of this story, that he evidently told this reporter that the president only has a 30% chance of surviving his 4 years because his cabinet's going to turn on him and vote him incompetent and kick him out. And he spoke to him specifically, and he'll be up a little bit later, Dave Bossie says, never happened, never said it, doesn't think it. So what do you want him to do? You have the guy there that says there's no problem. Then you have Steve Bannon quoted here, says it's not accurate. You could understand why the president, who does not like to take a backward step, feels as though he'd like to get the truth out.
Yeah, so that's exactly what they're talking about. If you're going to print a story or put something online, just please make sure it is accurate. All right, it is 6:11 here in New York City, and it's time now for some news with Jillian.
That's right. Good Friday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. We do begin with breaking news and a Fox News alert to get to. Overnight, a New Orleans police officer shot and killed in an ambush attack. Police say a suspect opened fire on 4 cops as soon as they got out of their patrol cars to investigate something at an apartment complex. One officer hit several times, collapsing to the ground, but still returning fire at the gunman. That suspect is now under arrest and at the hospital. The identity of the fallen officer is still unknown. New Orleans PD tweeting, quote, "We have lost one of our brothers." New Orleans PD grieves this morning. To another Fox News alert now. The American woman and her family freed from the Taliban have just boarded a plane out of Pakistan. Caitlin Coleman and her husband, who's from Canada, had been held since 2012. They have 3 young children, all born while in captivity. The Trump administration working with the Pakistani military to carry out the rescue. It's unclear where they're headed right now. And fists raised during Thursday night football. 2 Philadelphia Eagles players, including Malcolm Jenkins, protesting the national anthem. The team later going on to win 28-23 over the Carolina Panthers. And a Tennessee Titans player now threatening to quit if the NFL follows through on forcing players to stand for the national anthem. Wide receiver Richard Matthews tweeting, "I will be done playing football." He has since deleted the tweet. So look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you guys.
So nobody did any kneeling?
No kneeling.
Okay.
Right.
No.
Just 2 fists.
There you go. By the way, the fear of Friday the 13th, the fear of 13, it's called frigatriskaidekaphobia.
Right.
I knew it started with a frigga.
One of those phobias.
It sounds like a cereal. A little bit. I love that. Just add milk.
All right.
All right, 12 minutes now after the hour. Fox News alert. President Trump expected to rip up the Iran deal today, or is he?
It's a horrible, horrible embarrassment to our country.
Our next guest, one of the Americans taken captive during the Iran hostage crisis, says it's about time, if in fact that happens.
Plus, Hillary Clinton is apparently interviewing for a new job. Guess what? Teaching the kids.
Fantastic. She's a sub?
Fox News alert on this Friday morning. President Trump is set to announce later today, we believe, the fate of the Iran nuclear deal at the White House. The question is, should the president decertify the deal or not? It sounds like he is going to. Our next guest was one of the Americans taken hostage at the U.S. Embassy back in 1979 and held hostage for 444 days. He says it's time for the president to get out of a bad deal. Talking about the former vice consul at the U.S. Embassy in Iran, Don Cook joins us from our nation's capital. Don, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so it sounds like the president is going to decertify this deal. Why do you think the Obama administration did this deal in the first place if it's such a bad deal?
The Obama administration had an idea that they were going to be the ones to have the magic surprise of foreign policy. They were going to be the ones who reopened relations with Iran and established friendly relations. Essentially, they wanted to do the Nixon act of reopening to China, but in this case, reopening to Iran.
But it just simply was not a good deal, and that's why the president is going to probably decertify it later today. You say, good. It's been too long anyway, right?
I think the deal should be either renegotiated or we should walk out of it. From the very first, the Iranians told us that they were not going to end the enrichment of uranium, and there's no reason for the Iranians to enrich uranium other than to have a bomb. And evidently, at the very first negotiating session, the Iranians told the U.S. that ending enrichment was off the table, and we should have walked out of the room right then.
Right. So the way it works is if the president does decertify the Iran deal, and we are expecting the decision later today, is then Congress would have 60 days to come up with something else, maybe impose new sanctions. But there's a lot of people who say that's a good idea. Then there are our European allies who say, you know what, we're not so much in the sanctions business. We're okay with the way things were.
Well, there's two responses. One is that I'm not necessarily sure that our European allies are 100% behind the deal. The French have already indicated that the 15-year window, which would allow the Iranians after 15 years to essentially carry out their nuclear program unrestrained, I'm not sure that they're okay with that. The second thing is that the Iranian economy is an oil economy, basically, and this makes them particularly vulnerable to U.S. sanctions in the first instance because American companies still dominate the oil industry worldwide, and second, the oil markets are conducted in dollars, and if you can't operate in dollars, you're going to have a tough time selling your oil.
Well, let's see what the president does a little later on today. Don Cook, former vice consul at the U.S. Embassy in Iran, who was held hostage for 444 days. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. It's 6:20 now here in New York City on this Friday. A high school teenager kidnapped and killed her accused murderer, an illegal alien who was protected by the DREAM Act. This story is going to have you upset on this Friday morning. And leftist thugs on the attack at the University of California, Berkeley campus, this time targeting conservative students. We're going to talk to one of those students coming up next. We are back with the Fox News Alert. It is now the deadliest week for wildfires in California's state history. At least 31 people killed and hundreds still missing. Let's get right to the story. Will Carr live from Coffey Park in Santa Rosa, California, where authorities are in rescue and recovery mode. Will.
Good morning, Stephen. As the sun comes up, cadaver dogs are going to be navigating this neighborhood. They're going to run into cars like this that are crumpled and charred as they go property by property, home by home, looking for more victims. 31 people killed, but we're told that number is expected to go up as they continue to find bodies. Yesterday, they found some in homes in this Santa Rosa neighborhood. Authorities say that those bodies were just ash and bone. That's how hot this fire was. And at the same time, we're continuing to hear stories of survival, including one couple that jumped into their neighbor's pool to try to survive. They held on to each other for warmth as the flames burned everything around them. And we also heard from one woman who lives in this community yesterday as she talked about her home being destroyed.
People were going every direction. Trees were down. It was just covered. It was apocalyptic. It was insane. Lived here 13 years. We don't know what the next move is yet.
This morning, there are 8,000 firefighters on the front lines, and we're told that the weather could get worse heading into the weekend, so that's a big concern. Also a big concern in this neighborhood, authorities have told us there's been some looting. At least 5 people arrested, and yesterday, Steve, we were talking to a couple officers. They said that they ran in and arrested one man who, it's really hard to believe that you would come out and try to loot from this, but they told us that he was trying to steal a gun safe, and they caught him in the act. Steve.
All right, Will Carr live in Santa Rosa, California. Will, thank you very much. Awful story. All right, Brian, off to you and Ainsley.
All right, here's another awful story in my view. Antifa targeting conservative students at UC Berkeley. I think if you're targeting any students, it's a problem. And our next guest says he is one of those targeted.
Joining us now is Berkeley student and campusreform.org correspondent Nawid Tamas. Thank you, Nawid, for joining us again. So
thank you for having me.
You're back to tell us more of what's happening at Berkeley to Republicans there. What's the latest with you? What's happened to you?
Well, it's unfortunate every time I come on this air, nothing has changed, but it's become socially acceptable at UC Berkeley for conservatives to be physically beaten, chased, and stalked. Just recently, Antifa actually had Campus Reform actually had an article about Antifa stalking me when I was grabbing dinner with friends. They posted my information online and my location to their 6,000 followers and attempted to plot against me. It's become so absurd that they're even protesting me having dinner. But with every attack, it shows the left is clearly desperate. Conservative students are saying enough is enough, and we are fighting back against them. We are breaking the shackles of leftist control over our university that for too long have robbed students from the opportunity of hearing a different perspective on campus. We're not going to be intimidated by their attacks.
So,
we're going to keep on fighting.
So, Naweed, last time here you said that the numbers were growing and the number of Republicans on campus. The fact that you are targeted now, it is not pushing people away. It's getting people to your side?
Exactly. Students are tired of seeing conservatives being silenced, and conservative students on campus are no longer taking this. They're fighting back. And the left is clearly desperate. And every attack is a sign of desperation from them. They're trying to preserve the status quo and maintain their ideological echo chamber. But again, we're fighting back, and we're leading a new free speech movement to allow students to hear different perspectives on campus. And this might be a radical idea, but maybe conservatives have good solutions to problems facing our country today as well.
Now, some of the video we've been showing, it looks pretty scary, and I'm sure your parents are really fearful and worried about you. Why is it worth it to you? Because we heard in one of the restrooms, there was graffiti written on the wall that said, "Kill all BCRS," which is Berkeley College Republican students. I mean, they want to kill you.
Right, we see this often. When I walk to campus every day, I am reminded that I'm not welcome. I see "Kill BCR," behead the Berkeley College Republicans, but I believe this is an important cause to fight for, because if we surrender our First Amendment rights on campus, university institutions are going to fail their duty to provide students with the ability to critically think. And I believe this is an important issue, and that's why I'm going out there every day and fighting despite the threats.
Right. Now, what is the faculty doing? Are they as alarmed as most faculty should be about this type of physical threats and attacks? I mean, you've been punched, you've been kicked, you've been spit on.
So the Berkeley establishment we're fighting against, and the one that's attempting to preserve the status quo, our professors, is the university administration, of course, is also the city. Every time I show the university administration a list of attacks with video proof, with photography, the university fails to actually do anything about it, fails to discipline students, because the truth is they don't really care about conservative students, and professors are encouraging this type of behavior.
I wonder if it were conservative.
They're encouraging the beating, kicking, punching, and intimidating?
Well, before the disastrous Indianapolis riots, there were professors that actually helped students coordinate and plan those violent riots. In fact, there's meetings on campus where professors met with students in organizing those riots. Of course, professors never actually defend us, and we never see it.
What if the tables were turned? What if it were conservatives going after liberals on your campus?
We'll see the double standard clearly. Imagine if conservatives started intimidating leftists on campus. We'll see massive outrage from the university administration, of course, students. But because we're evil Republicans, it's therefore justified to constantly harass us.
I give you credit. If I was getting kicked, beat up, punched, my location being revealed, I wouldn't be going to that school, but you're sticking it out and writing them checks for their tuition, even though they don't deserve it. Naweed, Tomas, thanks so much.
Thanks, Naweed. Be safe.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, the Harvey Weinstein scandal continues to grow, with authorities from New York and London investigating. He's in legal trouble. And now Amazon has a harassment scandal of its own and an executive on leave. New details next.
And what happens before a hard day of work at a coal mine? More of this awesome moment coming up.
I just got to introduce you to one of the finest crews in Indiana and maybe the country. This is a fine group. This is the Antonio's Italian Restaurant staff in Elkhart, Indiana. But one of the things about this staff is the family, and this family is giving us a series of gifts. The reason why you see them back...
Who's in the kitchen?
That is the mother-in-law in the kitchen.
When were you there?
I was there over the weekend. The whole family works in the restaurant. They have a hard time getting staff. She works. She's 11 years old.
That's
she works in the lettuce.
It's about time.
And MRC and WOWO had a big event there for two of the radio stations.
Oh, you were on the radio there.
Yeah. So we just had a big event there. But I was just amazed at this restaurant, because the whole family of 7 works in the restaurant, and they gave us all gifts. They're watching right now. They're also homeschooled.
Thank you, Antonios. Where was it?
In Elkhart, Indiana.
Do you know what Elkhart, Indiana is famous for?
Yes, RVs.
It is the RV capital of the world. I've been there.
What does that mean? Everyone has an RV? You can only live there if you have an RV.
80% of the RVs in the world are made in Elkhart, Indiana.
Oh, they're made there?
Yeah.
Thank you, because a tailgating is so much better with an RV, right? At the University of South Carolina, they park like on Thursday night, and the game's on Saturday.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Steve,
Oh, it's
there
a
you go.
tie.
You get it.
Oh, look at that.
There you go.
There's a wine bottle.
Right, well, Melania was wearing a tie the other day,
We'll
just like
share.
that. There we go.
All right. Very nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's so sweet of you to send this.
And, you know, Indiana, they just have 33,000 jobs unfilled. The economy's booming. They need people to fill the jobs. It's a Mike Rowe situation.
And by the way, how was the food at the restaurant?
Unbelievable.
Right. By the way.
In fact, they have won the North American Pizza Making Championship.
North American?
Wow.
North American.
Wow.
Playing in the World Games in Italy.
The only problem with this story is you didn't bring any pizza back for us.
I know.
I don't know if it works well on the plane.
You know what's going to happen at that restaurant, Jillian? All weekend long, everyone's going to go in there. I saw it on Fox and Friends.
I'm just sitting here thinking how much I love my new gear that Brian brought for me.
I'll share mine.
Isn't it amazing?
Oh, we'll share. Don't worry.
And these are the Catalanos. The Patrick is the dad. The mom is Erin, and together they keep the whole thing running.
Love it. Really
And
cool.
the
Good
mom
stuff.
will go back and wash the dishes at the end of the
Thanks
night.
for your support of Fox News Channel. All right, time now for some news.
We do have some serious news to get to, guys. So let's get you caught up on the news on this Friday morning. An illegal immigrant accused of murdering a teenage girl was protected from deportation under the DACA program. The bombshell revelation as ICE issues a detainer on 19-year-old Daniel Rangel Suri, originally from Mexico. Police say he's confessed to dragging 18-year-old Diana Martinez Gonzalez into the woods in South Carolina, shooting her multiple times in the head. It's not clear if the victim knew her killer. She didn't make it to the White House, but she could be headed to one of America's top universities to teach. The New York Daily News reporting Hillary Clinton is in talks with Columbia University about becoming a professor there. She's a former law professor, so it wouldn't be totally out of her wheelhouse. Police called to a medical clinic when a doctor forces a patient to leave his office.
You can get out of her
out of my office.
I will file a complaint with a
Do you want to be seen or not?
I want to go home and get in my bed. I'm
Then fine,
miserable.
get the hell out. Get your money and get the hell out.
I did. But that
See you
right
later.
there is just rude.
Whoa, the woman upset over a long wait time. Posting the exchange online, the doctor has apologized, saying he overreacted after the woman abused his staff. He's now under criminal investigation. This is what we mean by a proud American, a coal miner singing the national anthem before heading underground for a day of work.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Wow, what a voice. That's Josh Stowers singing for his coworkers in West Virginia. All of them, as you can see, bowing their heads in respect. Now, the person who posted this video on Facebook writes, quote, "There's no kneeling in this bathhouse." Wow, gotta love a story like that, guys.
That is awesome. All right, thank you very much, Jillian. Time now for some news with Janice Dean, and I say the news because so much about the wildfires down south and the snow up north.
Well, absolutely. We'd love to get some of this moisture across the Northwest down into California, but that is not going to happen. We are dealing with dry conditions for the foreseeable future for California. So the past 6 hours, you can see no rain in the forecast for the foreseeable future. We have elevated fire danger for all of these areas where dozens of wildfires continue to burn across Northern California, Southern California. And of course, we are watching very carefully the San Jose, Santa Rosa area, Sonoma area, where the elevated fire danger continues not only today, but through the weekend. So there's your forecast rainfall, getting all of this rain and mountain snow for the Northwest, but nothing into California where it remains dry. So I wish I had better forecast. And then you've got the relative humidity, and that's going to remain low throughout the day today and into the weekend. We've got that moisture across the Northwest, and it's just not getting, in some cases, like 10% relative humidity is not helping folks. We've been talking about this fire now for almost a week, the Tubbs fire, 34,000 acres and 10% containment. I mean, it's heartbreaking here because we've got firefighters out there. The fire weather outlook, again, through the weekend is going to be elevated, if not critical, with gusty winds, low relative humidity, and the temperatures going up. I wish I had better news. I have a firefighter as a husband, and the folks that the work that they are doing out there is, unprecedented in some cases.
No kidding. And those pictures Will Carr just brought us are heartbreaking.
Unbelievable.
All right, JD, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have some brand new disturbing details in the Harvey Weinstein scandal.
Yeah, listen to where this story is going. Carly Shimkus from Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius 150. 12:15 with some details. Man, this is getting so much bigger, and he's getting in so much more trouble.
Continues to grow, and I don't think we see this ending anytime soon. Weinstein's sexual harassment allegations now reaching outside the U.S. Police on both sides of the Atlantic, in London and in New York City, are investigating him. The new accusations dating back more than a decade. There's now more than 24 allegations against the movie mogul, some from high-profile actresses, including Angelina Jolie and Gwyneth Paltrow. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, weighing in on the scandal last night on Hannity.
Any woman out there who remains silent as the next generation suffered under this sexual predatory culture and this man, then they are complicit here, and they have no right to stand up and say that they speak for women.
Now, the New York Times shedding light on Weinstein's allegations after publishing an explosive report last week. And now TMZ is reporting Weinstein's contract allowed him to keep his job, even if sexual harassment suits came into play, as long as he paid the settlement costs out of his own pocket. Now, one of Weinstein's accusers, actress Rose McGowan, now accusing Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos of doing nothing after she told him about being abused. And another Amazon executive, Roy Price, also under fire this morning. Studio head Roy Price is now suspended after a TV producer accused him of harassing her in 2015.
So this is every organization's now examining. Other women are coming forward. According to there's 20 women who said he harassed them. 3 allege rape. 4 says he exposed himself. 7 women allege he assaulted them. 17 say he made unwanted advances. This guy thinks he's got to rehab himself back to the top of the mountain.
I mean, I would have to say there's absolutely no chance that he could ever have a stab at another career move again in his life. Actress Cara Delevingne came out, or she's a model as well. She came out, and one of the things that she said really struck me. She said when her confrontation with Harvey Weinstein occurred, she felt powerless. Can you imagine being put in that situation? It's just something that you really need to think about, and it appears to be the reality right now.
You're a $24,000 a year waitress who has aspirations of being a movie star. This guy can make your life, set you up for generations. What stands in your way? Unwanted advances.
Unbelievable.
I don't think this is going to be the last of it. I think we're going to hear more and more companies with people coming forward.
And he's now in Arizona, right?
Yes.
At a rehab place. All right.
I guess. First to say he was going to Europe.
Yeah.
They were worried about that. All right, Carly, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up on this Friday, David Bossie is going to be joining us, an advisor to the president, Senator Rand Paul, and U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. A busy 2 hours straight ahead.
Plus, President Trump using the power of the pen to do what Congress isn't doing, getting rid of Obamacare. But as Democrats scream sabotage, what impact will the president's actions really have?
Dr. Mark Siegel separating fact from fiction. Look, he's making a studio call. He's next.
Hey, Dr. Siegel.